throughout this year, I've done plenty of videos discussing television shows. And the thing is, rewatching a lot of some of these old shows from my past is that a lot of these shows have at least one token episode that's just absolutely balls to the wall insane. So I figured, why not just do a list compiling some of my favorite examples of these kinds of episodes? So, leave your brains off at the door and get ready to enter the mind. This is my top 10 Trippiest TV show episodes list. Mower Dog. Like a lot of other spots on this list, this show already has plenty of weird imagery as it is, but I've always come back to this episode appreciating the weirdness of it. Rick uses a device to teleport him and Morty into Morty's math teacher so they can plant the notion that something bad will happen to him if he doesn't give Morty a passing grade. But things soon escalate once they end up going deeper and deeper down into dreams within dreams.
Enter people's dreams, Morty. It's just like that movie that you keep crowing about. You talking about Inception? That's right, Morty. This is gonna be a lot like that, except, you know, it's gonna maybe make sense.
While all that's going on, the rest of the family are soon turned into pets by the family dog because he becomes fully aware with one of Rick's inventions. And soon the dogs of the world begin a mass-scale revolution against humanity. This is just one of many dream-based episodes that are going to be on this list, but this is what made me want to get into the rest of the series when I first saw it. The Rick and Morty A-plot works so well because the chemistry of the two characters and how much they screw up once they keep going deeper and deeper down into people's dreams.
Kidding me, this again? Oh man, it looks like we've hit dream bedrock here, Morty. Oh jeez, Rick, whoa, this isn't good.
And if you somehow haven't seen this episode yet, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I'm just going to say it is absolutely hilarious.
Please don't kill me. What's she saying, Bill?
I think she's saying, I love lasagna.
Look out! Look out! Big elephants on parade!
A tie between The Return of Harmony and Dream Scrapers. There was just one thing that compelled me to put these episodes on the list. The villains. For both shows you have Discord and Bill Cipher. These guys absolutely steal these episodes. Both characters absolutely embody chaos, and we love them for it. With Discord, he wants to rule Equestria and have millions of years of insanity reign across the land. With Bill, he's used by Gideon to get into Grunkle Stan's head to find the combination to the safe that holds the deed to the Mystery Shack. And it's obviously a pleasure for Bill, since him and the Pine family have a bit of a history together. And from there, the heroes of each show have to stop them and save the day, and yada yada yada, but I love these villains so much. Bill being kind of like an evil version of the genie from Aladdin, he's able to do whatever he wants and throws in so many funny quips along the way.
Oh, I know lots of things.
Lots of things.
Hey, look what I can do. Deer teeth, for you, kid.
And Discord is basically just a reincarnation of Q from Star Trek, even equipped with a little flick and disappear into a white flash.
Go ahead, try and use your little elements, frenemies. Just make it quick. I'm missing some excellent chaos here.
Based on how well the villains worked in these episodes and how much they embellished absolute chaos, Return of Harmony and Dream Scrapers share the number 9 spot.
Here they come, hippity-hoppity, they're here, and there are big elephants everywhere.
A 3-part episode. Okay, you know what? I promise. This is the last, shared spot or multi-part episode on the list, I promise. The Imaginationland trilogy from South Park. Just like the villain characters from number 9, this series of episodes embraces the really out there imagery and just says it. In what becomes one big homage to stuff like Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings, the beings of this world called Imaginationland are about to go to war. Like the title suggests, Imaginationland is just a world built up of imaginary beings, whether it be from mythology to pop culture fiction. While Butters is being hailed as the key to saving Imaginationland on account of his good nature and hyper-imagination, Stan and Kyle are being held captive by the government because they see the boys as onto what they have planned for Imaginationland. And all Cartman wants out of this? He wants Kyle to suck his balls because he can prove a leprechaun exists.
And what's Kyle about to do? Cartman, don't. Oh, Kyle! What are you doing to my balls? Oh, look! It's Kyle sucking my balls!
There's a reason that a ton of South Park fans love these episodes. They were able to create a 3-part episode with an almost feature-length plot, and did so with the same level of creativity that we've seen before they eventually started doing season-long overarching storylines. Imaginationland, a great 3-part episode that celebrates never truly letting go of imagination.
They're walking around the bed, on their head, clippity-cloppity.
Daydream Believer.
Daydream believer and
Yeah, knew that one was coming. I've talked about this show before in a previous video, but I'll sum it up like this. It was an underrated cartoon that I'm glad is blowing up in terms of recent fan discussion. And out of all the episodes I remember watching when I was young, this episode always struck me as the weirdest. After learning about what dreams are, Jenny asks her mom if she can install a chip in the back of her head that will simulate dreams once she goes into sleep mode. And it works. It works way too well. Soon she gets hooked on the idea of dreaming even when she's awake. One thing leads to another, the chip ends up short-circuiting, and now Jenny, seemingly stuck on dream mode, starts attacking innocent people she sees as monsters, her friends and mother included. What I liked most about this episode was how unique every fantasy sequence was. Every dream world looks different from the next and sticks out in its own unique way. Especially the last one, which takes up most of the final half of the episode. It's like they said, make a Greek mythology-themed nightmare world designed by Dr. Seuss, and run with it. And run with it they did. Creative, wacky, and with amazing designs to look at, Daydream Believer takes the number 7 spot.
A raid in great big elephants on parade.
Not really sure if I ever made this clear in a Mediaween video before, but I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Even if some of the newer episodes are hit or miss, when this show works, it works. Often described as the alcoholic, drug-addicted nephew of Seinfeld, the show follows a group of lovable a-holes that own a bar in South Philly. Dennis, the egotistical leader, Dee, his twin sister, Mac, the self-proclaimed sheriff of the bar, Charlie, the dumb one, and the greatest one yet, Frank, Dennis and Dee's stepfather, played by the meme man himself, Danny DeVito. Ever since the second season, this show has thrived with its ensemble cast and hilarious writing. Similar to Seinfeld, the main cast are borderline unlikable characters that are just so pathetic, as well as funny, you can't help but like them. Being Frank follows a day in the life, the trial and tribulations, and the sidetracks and the kooky goings-on of Frank, all from his point of view. So imagine Hardcore Henry with Danny DeVito. The main plot shows the gang trying to get their car out of an impound lot, all the while Frank is off in his own little world like usual. The craziest scene is easily this one montage where Frank goes on a wild drug binge while trying to steal a rug from a bar mitzvah with his lover Artemis. It makes sense in context, I swear.
It's Frankenstein! Back off! Watch your car! Watch your car! Get it. Gotta get hot dog! Hot dog! Hot dog! Hot dog! Hot! Hot! Boost! Get out of here!
While not one of my all-time favorite episodes from the show, I give this episode a serious amount of credit for its abundance of creativity. From the drug binge sequence, the whole episode being done in the perspective of Danny DeVito, and the hilarious moments all throughout, this episode was definitely going to land a spot on the list.
Out of my face, old man, before I kick your ass and throw you in that trunk.
I gotta think of something tough to say. Nice nips, cupcake.
What'll I do? What'll I do? What an unusual view.
Squidward and Clarinet Land. SpongeBob, we meet once again. Despite this being from a very bad period of the show, this is often hailed as one of the diamonds in the rough of the series. Amongst a ton of horrible episodes, this one stands out as actually being really good. The episode involves Squidward using Mr. Krabs' old Navy locker to keep his clarinet safe during the day. SpongeBob asks to share it and soon starts making renovations to it. As Squidward goes to see what he's doing, he ends up finding the locker is a lot bigger on the inside. And thus, Squidward ends up in Clarinet Land, a nightmare world specifically designed after his biggest fears.
I am the keeper of the Hornet Forest.
The episode finds an amazing balance of creativity with the worlds and the scenarios that Squidward ends up in. If there is one nitpick I have about it, it's that the opening is kinda slow, but even then, once the story gets going, it really stands out as an amazing episode. Random Land. New episode. Alright, well, let's see what happens in this one. Oh my god, they acknowledged it. Oh my god, they acknowledged Squidward's suicide. Oh my god, it's basically canon now. Holy crap. You see, with Teen Titans... Actually, I got nothing. It was just a really damn good show. Yeah, there's really not much I could say. Teen Titans was a great show with amazing animation, good humor, good action, and good character development all throughout. And while some people tend to say that the pseudo-prequel to this episode, Mad Mod, was great, I think that it's just okay. With one of my biggest takeaways being that it's a little drawn out, especially with the chase sequence that goes on for 10 straight minutes. But in that episode's defense, it was the first season, so the show still needed to find some of its leggings back then. But this episode takes a lot of the great elements from that episode and ramps them up, with the amazing villain Mad Mod, voiced by Clockwork Orange's Alex himself, Malcolm McDowell. Imagine him as kind of Austin Powers if he was a bad guy. Using his hypnosis technology, he brainwashes America into thinking that the British won the war, and soon America becomes archetype Britain. And he also drains Robin for his youth to be young again. And from there, the episode becomes one big elaborate tribute to Monty Python and Terry Gilliam animations, from the backgrounds, and they even parody the God scenes from Holy Grail. Instead of doing the typical villain goes back in time to alter history storyline, this episode does a good job at using the character's trademark arsenal and making such a visually imaginative and hilarious culture shock episode.
My technicolor pachyderms is really too much for me.
Crisscross Crisis. This is one of the few episodes on the list that doesn't have to do with dreaming, and yet I still find this the weirdest episode out of this entire show. For the record, this show does have a crazy dream episode, and while that was weird in its own way, I always remember watching this episode and thinking it was one of the greatest, weirdest episodes of anything when I was a kid. The professor's latest invention is designed to change molecular structure of apples and oranges, and it works. But it also ends up switching everyone in Townsville. And so the girls have to stop some mystery villain who's taken advantage of the confusion.
What's your alibi for not robbing the bank, Fuzzy?
Now see here, I've been drinking my tea Earl Grey hot, and furthermore, I am not a fuzzy.
All right, hands on the...
Oh, Leo! What a dreamboat!
Much like Revolution, this episode took what could have been a very cliche premise with the whole body switch angle, but they clearly had such a great time making this such a balls-to-the-wall episode, and damn do I still enjoy it.
Well, gang, it looks like we put everybody back in their proper place. You said it, Professor!
Things are good and things are quaint, but see things, you know there ain't...
Workaholics is one of those shows you either love or hate. There's plenty of people that I'm friends with that don't like it, there's plenty of people I'm friends with who do like it. But me personally, I fall into the category that does like it. Aired on Comedy Central and made by the four guys over at mailordercomedy.com, this show follows three stoner slacker best friends who always try to come up with harebrained schemes to get out of working at their telemarketing jobs. It's definitely not a show for everyone. If you can't stand shows with main characters who occasionally act like immature dicks, this show is not for you. But when there were episodes that I thought were funny, I thought they were funny. I really like this show, mainly because I like the cast and the interactions with all the characters. With the show starring a couple of potheads, there's plenty of weird episodes that I could have picked from, like Business Trip. But I'm gonna go with an episode I found more consistently entertaining in its surreality. Peyote It Forward. The guys have to watch after the son of a client who's visiting the office. Sounds easy enough, but things get difficult when it turns out Adam slipped peyote into their morning smoothies, and all because they heard of a similar experience from Joe Rogan. From there, things get really, really weird. From insane visual after insane visual, Adam sees multiple versions of himself, Blake sees himself older, Durs becomes a bird, the kid grows giant, gravity turns off, the parking lot turns into lava, and just so much more. When season 5 first aired, this was one of the episodes I was always looking forward to, and I was not disappointed. Peyote It Forward. It's a trip.
Let's just go back, okay?
Door's gone! The back door's gone!
It certainly gave you an awful time.
If you've been watching my MediaWiz videos for a while now, you know that I'm a huge fan of Ed, Edd and Eddy. So that's exactly why the #1 spot goes to an Ed, Edd and Eddy episode. My favorite Trippiest TV show episode goes to 1 + 1 = Ed. The episode begins pretty normal, with the Eds deciding they'll try and learn about various different things in the world. They go to Rolf for some of his cultural stories as he launches into a tale of this.
Once upon a time, an ugly boy was thrown out of his village and hit his melon on a tree.
The boy looked up and was amazed at the many beautiful heads growing from its branches. After many tries,
What the?
she found one that fit and ran back to the village.
And from there, for no clear reason, the episode becomes crazier and crazier. The Eds become giant, Eddie eats the sun, they remove Jimmy's outline, Ed cuts a hole out of thin air, there's a three-headed Rolf, and just so much more.
Don't look now, but there's a cow hovering just overhead.
Get rid of it!
I think we're moving, Eddie.
Oh, I can hear dorks, but I can't see dorks.
This is not good.
Care to join us, Double D?
I've heard this episode described as animation overload, and I think that's the best way to describe it. Much like Crisscross Crisis, you could tell they wanted to make an episode where they could just be as plain nuts as they wanted and do whatever they want. And in the end, they made an amazing visual-driven, well-written, delightfully insane episode. And that's why 1 + 1 = Ed is my #1 favorite Trippiest TV show episode.
Huh? Eddie! Eddie? My turn!
And that was my list. If you guys have any of your own personal picks for your favorite Trippiest TV show episodes, feel free to comment them below. I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough, and October's coming soon, which means Mediaween is about to begin.